When you go to work out at those locations, you sign away your constitutional rights. You sign a piece of paper saying that if you violate your security agreement and you discuss programs that you're working on without a trial, without right of appeal, you're going to go to Leavenworth Federal Penitentiary for 20 years. That's a real big incentive to keep your mouth shut.
We had an engineer who worked at this TV station who, before he was here, had worked at Area 51 and had seen one of these craft under a tarp. Walked into a place he probably shouldn't have been. I arranged to do an interview with him. He lives in another city, in another state. He agreed reluctantly as long as I would block out his face. Well, we make the arrangements on the phone. The interview is supposed to happen the next day. He gets up, goes to work. There are two men in a car outside of his house talking into a radio. They follow him to work. When he gets out of work, they follow him home. No interview. I mean, it happened again and again and again. Same scenario.
It has been very difficult to talk about this. It's almost like every time I relate the story, it gets a little easier. But when I first started talking about it, it was like my mouth didn't even want to form the words, and the sound didn't even want to come out of my throat. So I can only guess from that there was a very strong suggestion given to me not to talk about this, not to remember it, and if I did remember it, not to ever talk about it to anyone.
Den här 71-årige pensionerade flygteknikern påstår att även han arbetat i område 51. På 50-talet skulle han ha jobbat på en flygande tefatssimulator avsedd för träning av amerikanska flygare. Han uppgav att han fått tillstånd att tala om vissa delar av sitt arbete, men han bad att få förbli anonym.
We received a disc from extraterrestrials. This particular one that I had to work on, or did work on, was from the Kingman crash, and that was later on taken to a Nevada test site where, at the time, I didn't know.
Were there any alien bodies recovered?
No bodies. There were 4 live, feeling good guys.
4 live extraterrestrials?
4 live, feeling good extraterrestrial type individuals, yes.
And where were those 4 extraterrestrials taken?
Initially they were taken to New Mexico. And then several months later they were taken to the Nevada site. One of the things I worked on was a flying disc simulator to train pilots to fly this strange looking craft designed for humans to fly, not for any extraterrestrials to fly.
Till hans märkligaste uppgifter hör att han i 16 års tid ska ha arbetat på projektet tillsammans med en utomjording vid namn J-Rod.
J-Rod is a gray alien, about 5'4". His role was only as a translator, scientific translator. That was all. If we wanted to put something in the place of what they had, he had to agree with it. I would have a question, and I would bring it up in my mind, just how I wanted to present it with him, and he'd already know that I had this question, and he would already have the answer for me. And if he responded, it would be in my voice. And you wouldn't even open your lips. It is possible that he and a few thousand others are working on a project, either here or elsewhere.
Is this a few thousand other greys?
Few thousand other greys like himself.
Staden närmast basen och område 51 heter Rachel. Där bor 150 personer. Här påminner allt om tefat och utomjordingar. Från att ha varit ett rastställe för långtradare har Rachel blivit USAs främsta mötesplats för UFO-intresserade. Turisterna flockas i hopp om att få skåda flygande tefat. Och de märkliga nattliga ljusfenomenen fortsätter. Chuck Clark som bor i Rachel har sett många oförklarliga fenomen.
The most remarkable sighting that I've had in the last 3 years took place 2 years ago, February of '93. I watched a glowing object ascend vertically from the area south of Area 51 where S4 would be located hang motionless in the air for about 10 minutes, and then slowly start to descend. All of this while I thought I was watching a illumination flare that was launched from a mortar tube.
I can hear jets in the background. I'll zoom back a little bit. This is looking straight over Steve Medelin's ranch, right here off 375 Highway. This is right over the peaks.
Once it got down to the ridge line, however, it was in front of the hill that had come up from behind. The hill was about 12.5 miles from my position. It came down to a few feet above the ground at the base of the hill, hovered momentarily, which is still consistent with what a flare might do in calm air, but then suddenly it shot off westward, covered 4.8 miles in 1 to 1.5 seconds, and stopped cold, also about 30 feet off the ground, hovered just long enough for me to get it focused in my binoculars for maybe 2 seconds, and then it vanished right in place.
We've seen video of craft that were luminous, that would move across the sky as if it was skipping a stone across water, or sort of a sewing machine effect. What we see across the screen are a series of lights, of dashes of light, as the object moves from point A to point B. And a rather strange warping occurs that's very difficult to unravel until you go frame by frame and you begin to see what is actually occurring. Therefore, we are seeing what you might call a shadow effect of the propulsion mechanism at work.
I've spoken to several people who've seen UFOs or disc-shaped craft out there. An attorney who lives here in town who has seen one. He saw one land outside the boundaries of Area 51. I've spoken to a very high-level managerial type who worked for a defense contractor out there for a number of years, from a very respectable, reputable family. His credentials are beyond question, but he doesn't want his name or face used, and he has seen them many times.
There were a variety of craft that were all essentially generically sort of canister-shaped. I guess you would say they were predominantly disc-shaped or rounded, like one of those Chinese lanterns or something or other. They appear to be colorful. At least they were multicolored in addition to the lights that seemed to be able to take on the light of the background. They could camouflage themselves somewhat in the sky by absorbing the blue light from the sky and the clouds.
Vad beror de nattliga ljusfenomenen på? Är det verkligen flygande tefat? Bruce Maccabee, fysiker och UFO-expert vid amerikanska flottan, har studerat videofilmerna.
Basically what you see are lighted objects doing things way off in the distance. You don't really see any structured craft. Some of the video material, very small amount that I've seen, seems to show lights doing strange things like hovering and then moving suddenly to another location, maybe, and moving slowly and jumping around a little bit. I've concluded that they aren't ours. That means they belong to somebody else, and they're not made here on Earth, basically, so they must be coming from the outside. How they get here, who, in quotes, they belong to, I don't know. Extraterrestrials is a reasonable proposal. All the arguments that have been put forth that it couldn't be people from another star system in the galaxy or whatever because they can't get here from there, those arguments are not physically correct, because we could get there given enough time and money and desire to do it. However, it's clear that these other intelligences, whatever they are far beyond us in terms of technologies.
Coming back, just doing a loop.
Now what I'm going to show you is a computer-enhanced version of what you just saw, and we're just going to look at the one portion where the UFO was appearing in the left-hand corner, going to the right, and then coming back again. That's all we're going to see. We're going to see it repeated over and over again. This part of the frame has been chopped out of the full frame. So I'll just let it run, and it goes back and forth, repeating. And if we stop it, and here's the shadow, and here's the UFO. So basically we have a triangle with one side and two angles that we know. The net result is I can calculate the UFO position in three-dimensional space.
Right.
Turns out to be about 7,000 feet away from the camera.
So having analysed it, what we seem to have here, Bruce, is a genuine UFO.
Yes, there is an object out there 7,000 feet away. It wasn't one of ours. It's about 30 feet in size. A genuine UFO.